Greetings, brothers and sisters. So, I have a lot to get to. This little Nas X song. So many people have been sending me links about it and his new 666 shoe line. Some stuff with Gwyneth Paltrow and a bunch of other, a little Hunter Biden stuff as well. But I want to revisit this thing first. This is Caitlin Collins, who gave Donald Trump a really hard time, right? She's from CNN, and CNN's the worst. And I was thinking about this bizarre exchange that probably went unnoticed because of all the other, weirdness and incompetence in Joe Biden's first press conference as president.
I answered your question.
You also just made some news by saying that you are going to run for re-election.
I said that is my expectation.
You also just made some news by saying you're going to run for re-election. It's just a bizarre thing to say because, he didn't really announce. Somebody asked him if he's going to run for re-election, and he's just floundering in his first initial 60 days. He's up against it, and he's going to be 82 years old, right? And so a lot of things could happen beyond anybody's control. He's not doing well now. He doesn't know he's not doing well in terms of whatever's going on mentally with him. But why would that be important, like right now? That he's going to run for re-election. But here's where it starts getting weird.
So is that a yes, that you are running for re-election?
Look, I don't know where you guys come from, man. I've never been able to travel. I'm a great respecter of fate. I've never been able to plan.
He's never been able to travel. Like, what did that even mean? That was, a JoJo moment.
And 3.5 years ahead for certain.
And if you do run, will Vice President Harris be on your ticket?
I would fully expect that to be the case. She's doing a great job. She's a great partner. She's a great partner.
And do you believe you'll be running against former President Trump?
Oh, come on.
This is how much they miss Trump at CNN. Like, CNN's the worst, but they really miss him. Like, they can't live without Trump. You think Trump might come back? Like, it was like, are you going to run again? What about Trump? Is Trump coming back? Like, they're so obsessed with Trump. Like, this is 4 years from now, and you want to go through that again? Like, you're already wanting to go through another election like we just had? How draining that was on everybody in the system? It was brutal. You want to redo that, CNN? Like, you want to redo 2020? You think it's going to be Trump? You think Trump's coming back? What about Trump? Trump. She got into it with Trump all the time. Trump disliked her at these press conferences. She's giving JoJo, a basic piece. She's playing Olay defense, like we used to call it in basketball, where you just let your opponent walk by you and you say Olay like a bullfighter. And so, but what a bizarre exchange. Like, there's real things going on in the world, and she's, well, you said you're going to run for re-election, and what about Trump? Is Trump going to be, like, which he has no knowledge of or whatever, right? He's barely able to keep himself from drooling.
Come on. I don't even think about it. I have no idea. I have no idea whether there'll be a Republican Party. Do you? I know you don't have to answer my question, but do you? Look, this is the way I view things. I become a great respecter of fate in my life.
Yeah, this is not a time to be relying on fate because the fate of America isn't going to go very well. So that was just a bizarre exchange. But also then there's this. I'm going to make a follow-up video on this cereal guy. White House might tax motorists by the mile to fund $3 to $4 trillion infrastructure plan. And so JoJo talked about how America's just breaking down in terms of the infrastructure. And now they're pushing out there Pete Buttigieg as his transportation secretary because JoJo can't travel. And it says, Biden administration is considering imposing vehicle mileage tax on Americans as a way to fund a multi-million-dollar infrastructure plan. And Pete Buttigieg says, I think it shows a lot of promise if we believe in that so-called user pays principle, the idea that part of how we pay for roads is you pay based on how much you drive. And so The problem with this is this is what's called regressive tax. And what a regressive tax means is something that hits the poor harder than it hits the rich. Like they're talking about all these things to do with the rich, right? And how they're going to tax the rich, and that's one of JoJo's big talking points. But this driving tax is a regressive tax because, like, sales tax is a regressive tax, where the people who have lower income spend more money on, more percentage of their money on things that they get sales tax for. They're going to pay a higher percentage of their income in sales tax and in driving tax and gas tax. You understand this because wealthy people who are making, $400,000 million a year are going to spend the same amount in tax as somebody making $30,000. They're going to drive the same amount or whatever it is, right? And so they're going to pay about the same amount in money in terms of the tax, but it's going to be a higher percentage of their income. So it's going to hit poor families harder. And so along with that, JoJo was talking about his popularity, but from 538, JoJo is at about 54% approval rating and 39% disapproval rating. There's a lot of undecided people who I really don't understand that. But, like, this is new, right? This is it hasn't nearly been above 54%. And, they just passed this big stimulus package, which people are for because, they're going to get money. But, he's already, this is the beginning of his presidency. It's just going to go down from here. And we're going to see this. He's going to deteriorate. But what this video is really about is how degraded the world has become. I mean, it's happening really quick. So we're going to get to the little Nas X thing in a second. But let's start here with Hunter Biden. There's some doggies here. Hunter Biden texts contradict claims Secret Service wasn't involved in gun case. So this is from Hunter Biden's hard drive. And they found these texts about this handgun incident with his, where it says here, Hunter Biden sent a text message that said the Secret Service responded after his handgun disappeared in 2018, contradicting the agency's assertion that it wasn't involved. In a lengthy message sent the following year, President Biden's son described the situation in detail, saying his former sister-in-law turned lover, Haley Biden, tossed the firearm into the trash bin outside of the Jansen Market, a gourmet grocery store in Wilmington, Delaware. It doesn't say who the text is from, but the blue stuff is Hunter Biden. I think it would have been a good bonding moment for us, where the two of them, we may want to find the right moment. I would probably want to leave my .38 at the office, however, and it was in my pocket. Yes, no guns in a fist fight. That's not fun. Did I tell you what she did with my .38? This is Hunter. True story. Tell you tomorrow. Took from lockbox of the truck and put it in a paper bag and threw it in the trash can at a local high-end grocer for no reason. And I freaked out when I saw it missing 10 minutes after she took it. And when she went back to get it, after I scared the shit out of her, like, what does that involve? I mean, that's big news. Like, well, how did he scare the shit out of her? And it was gone, which led to state police investigating of me. True story. She has a thing for putting dangerous stuff in garbage cans. Your stuff. Like, what's going on here? But really on top of the full open trash can. And it says, I'm sure you two have intimacies and pages of your shared life stories that bind you together. But really, she seems rather ill-equipped to both love you and command your attention, respect, admiration, etc. You're avoiding being the chosen one because you were not the chosen one by your stepmother, which means Jill. So I guess he wasn't the chosen one of Jill. Why is that? I don't know. Is it the crack? Is it? Maybe it has to do with the crack. It says here, she has told people I've ruined her credit and taken money from her. Haley owes me about $440,000, at least just from Amex, So I don't know, she's been ringing up his Amex card. This is his dead brother's wife, widow, that he started seeing, which was, bizarre. I had an accountant here go through every Amex statement and every wire transfer I've made or received. I wouldn't care, except that's the rumor she started that went all the way from her lips to the club to random bar and acquaintances 3 times removed. He heard that Hunter had spent all Haley's money, and that does not include the $350,000 I've given Liz, her sister. She just implies that, look at the money he's talking about here, $440,000 and $350,000. She's implied that Liz and I are sleeping together. She has told people that I constantly and obsessively invade her privacy, going through photos and phone bills, etc. She forgets that she was the first to do that. I had no secrets. And when she found a picture of Brianna, a woman I introduced to her the same moment I first met he over the phone, and I never, when confronted, lied to her about anyone. She has more photos of screenshots of phone in her photos than anything else. She has promised me that if I came home, she would stop, and the moment I fall asleep, she has taken my keys and phones and gone through everything. She has secret photo vaults disguised as other apps on her phone and text apps meant for people in affairs. She stole the gun out of my truck lockbox and threw it in a garbage can full to the top at Jansen's, then told me it was my problem to deal with. Then when the police, the FBI, and the Secret Service came on the scene, she said she took it from me because she was scared I would harm myself due to my drug and alcohol problem and our volatile relationship, and that she was afraid for the kids. Sounds like a very happy relationship. I mean, this thing's a mess, more than just the gun thing. I mean, think about what's going on here. And she's selling them out, right? She's selling them out to the police, the FBI, and the Secret Service. Really not joking. The cop kept me convinced that Haley was implying she was scared of me. I told her about everything I did or have done. She insists she has done nothing, even in the face of receipts and phone records and location histories. She has lied flat out about things that are simple fact. She has told me I'm crazy and a crack addict and everything I think and do is delusional and insane. Well, she tells people that every time she tries to be nice and speak to me that I'm angry and hurtful, when the one thing I'm angry and hurt by is her ignoring me and shunning me. She has told her children and her family I'm broke and have no money and living off her. She has told my dad that if he helps me tuitions, I'll use the money for drugs. This is a level of degradation that we expect from Hunter Biden. So this is a bizarre and another degraded exchange between Kelly Clarkson and Gwyneth Paltrow.
Earlier we were talking about music, so I have to ask, what are some songs you go to when you're down?
Wet ass.
This fake laugh, it's just uncomfortable. And the degradation, Gwyneth Paltrow getting in on this Cardi B thing. I'm going to come back to that as well when we go to the Lil Nas X video. Really, Kelly Clarkson? It's that funny? It's just, that's that funny, her saying that.
Oh my God, I'm done. I need to see the tape back. Because I was like, I felt like.
So, there's that. So let's get to the Lil Nas X thing. So this Lil Nas X video is trending #1. I've got so many people sending me this thing, freaked out by it. There's all these, viewers who are freaked out by this video. And so it starts off, there's a serpent version of himself, like in the Garden of Eden, right? And he's coming down to give Nas X original sin. I mean, this is the metaphor here. It's a very horrible song. And by the end of it, he comes up to the devil and he grinds on the devil. It's very graphic, sort of. I mean, this is stuff that kids are watching. We'll come back to Nas X in a second. But he snaps the devil's neck, takes the devil's horns, puts them on himself, and becomes this satanic figure, right? He becomes Satan. And so you would think that there would be a little bit of a pushback from, I don't know, somebody, right? Because Little Nas X, the worst thing he did before this was he exhumed Billy Ray Cyrus, right? He brought Billy Ray Cyrus back into the consciousness of the world. He had that, cowboy song that was, innocent, and a lot of kids played that. He went to elementary schools. I showed you that.
My life, and it's going to be great.
You're gonna surprise some kids?
Yeah, maybe.
Say that.
Possibly.
Where he was, he went to a bunch of elementary schools playing this song. It was this huge song. And, he built up a following, many of whom were kids, just like with Cardi B. You have young people who are looking up to Nas X and like his music. And then he comes out with this very degraded video. I mean, the very graphic scene with him and the devil. Weird scene, right? And so you would think there would be a lot of pushback, or at least some acknowledgement that this is inappropriate for kids, all of it. And so there wasn't that. So to add that, my wife sent me this last night. She hadn't seen the video or hadn't heard about it. But he has a line of shoes, Satan shoes. The soles of the shoes contain real human blood. I don't know how that's possible. But this is what this tweet says. There are only 666 pairs are being sold at $1,018 each. 18, of course, is 3 sixes. And there's, of course, a pentagram here. And so I'm not sure about the human blood. I'm not sure where the guy got that. But here are the shoes. See, it says Satan shoes right here, Little Nas X. And drops at $329, 2021. And so this is his, headline here. There's Little Nas X with his shoes. He has a bunch of biblical quotes here, one about demons and some other things, Satan, and some of these other things here. And so he's going full devil worship here. Here's the devil picking a dude up and carrying him away. There's Luke 10:13. Again, he's getting biblical with this thing. And he's got these shoes, which is, again, there's a pentagram here, obviously, to do with all that. So he's going full devil worshiper. So if you search for Little Nas X in news, Little Nas X makes a coming out statement and 9 more new songs. I saw this video drop. I watched a little bit of it on YouTube Trends, and I didn't have time to cover it and wasn't going to. And I saw that Huffington Post was praising the video. It says, Little Nas drops lap dances with the devil in provocative video for Montero, Call Me By Your Name. Little Nas X grinds on Satan in gayest pop video of all time. This is an LBGTQ magazine called Pride. Little Nas X writes a letter to his younger self about coming out. It's the devil part that should be concerning people, because, again, this isn't what you take away from the video, that he is writing a letter to himself. There is the serpent, there's original sin. The serpent kisses him and introduces original sin to him, and he's kissing himself too because he's the serpent. This is from Variety. Lil Nas X Sexed Up Montero video has changed everything for queer music artists. Lil Nas X shares emotional letter to 14-year-old self about coming out publicly. Is that what you're taking away from this? This is going to win awards. Like, you're going to see this, and it's going to get hundreds of millions of views, maybe 1 billion, maybe 500 million, but it's going to get substantial views from mostly young people and mostly kids. 7 sinful GAFs from Lil Nas X Montero, Call Me By Your Name, music video from Vulture, and then this from BuzzFeed. In Montero, Lil Nas X is fully embracing his sexuality and simultaneously trolling haters. And why would he have to do the second part? Why would he have to embrace the devil stuff and all the things that are going to provoke people on the right? Do you understand what I'm saying here? If he is making a positive video about coming out and accepting yourself, why would he at the same time want to troll haters? And they're not haters, they're people who have a different belief system. Why would he want to make this a bad thing or a controversial thing or negative thing, specifically involving Satan and a very weird grinding scene, a very explicit grinding scene, and him becoming Satan, when little kids are going to watch this? Everybody's kids who's on the internet is going to watch this. I mean, you can try to prevent your kids, but kids see things. The same thing with Cardi B's WAP video, the Cardi B stuff. I've talked about that before, the degraded stuff for women. And so why do that and then make a sneaker, a satanic sneaker, and profit on that and sell it to mostly kids, young people? That's who's going to be buying the sneaker. You're going to drop this video and then you're going to merge up with the Satan stuff. You're using Satan as a way to make money and merch up, and kids are going to be branding themselves with these satanic shoes. And again, if you search it on the internet, most of the news that you're seeing, all the things on the front page of Google are praising the video, and it's being shared, it is being promoted on YouTube Trends as the #1 trending video. So this is something that they think is okay. The powers that be think this is okay. And how is this okay for kids? Why would this be okay for kids? Why would this be something that would be considered acceptable and something that is going to get awards and be promoted and praised? The song is really bad. It's a horrible song. If you listen to this song without the video, it's pretty much unlistenable. It's not a quality song. It's not something that would, the cowboy song that he came out with Billy Ray Cyrus, which is still funny, is, it's catchy. It has something where, it's going to have mass appeal. This song wouldn't have mass appeal. But going back to this idea that he is provoking people on the right, people who have religious values, people who are Christians specifically, and what he's doing is he's promoting Satan to their children. That's what's happening. You're going to have a lot of Christian families whose children are going to watch this, and they are being, indoctrinated by something their parents don't believe in. In fact, they're very fearful of. And you might be an atheist. You might not, be a religious person or a God-believing person. But still in your psyche, in your subconscious, and even your conscious mind, the devil represents evil. And now they're saying that isn't true. But still everyone, deep down is going to think about Satan and the devil as evil, especially anybody growing up in America and Europe in these Christian-based cultures. Now, I've talked about, I do the heartfulness meditation. I'm not a practicing Christian, but I value Jesus's teachings and his life and the positive effect. I was a Catholic. I grew up as a Catholic, and my mom had these prayer meetings, and there's nuns used to come to my house, and I had a positive experience. Lots of people haven't had a positive experience with Catholicism or Christian religion, but I had a, mostly positive experience. I just graduated to something else, right? Something that, spirituality is superior to religion. Religion, there's this idea that God is outside of you, where spirituality, you're connecting to God within. Religion is the kindergarten to spirituality. But I had a good experience in my kindergarten. I don't have, and I believe in a lot of the things that are taught in the Christian religion. Some of the teachings I believe have been warped and changed to, make the religion more powerful and give the religion more control. Blasphemous stuff that they've promoted, but, that is whatever it is. And I'm not provoked by little Nas X's video here, but it's bad for kids. I mean, it's something that kids should be protected from. What's shown in the video is not meant for kids, and kids are going to see it. And he has cultivated a child audience. Like I said, he went to these various elementary schools. He did like an elementary school tour, and he, was bringing these kids in. They're singing along with his song. And so he is connecting with young kids. And when you do that, you have a responsibility. And this is totally abusing the responsibility in ways that's, almost criminal and certainly immoral. If you watch my videos, I make fun of people, I mock people, and I call people out for sucking, right? But I don't judge them, at least not in the ways that most people think about judging other people. Like his relationship with God, other people's relationship with God, and their morality and their issues are their issues. It's not my burden. And there's a system. There's a divine system in place. I believe that God has a plan, from the heartfulness meditation that I do. And I've experienced that. I've had experience with the plan. And people have to go on their own journey and their own path and find their way back to God. And I don't, get into it, right? It's just, I don't get heavy about it. I don't try to shame people or all these things. I mean, if you've seen my videos, I'm mostly light about all these things. And, whatever he's going through in his life and, whatever he went through with his coming out, and he wants to make a video about that, that's, his business. If he wants to make a positive video about that, something that would uplift other people, young people who identify as LGBTQ, something that would be inspirational and supportive, that would be a good thing. I would, there wouldn't be no video. I wouldn't be making a video about it, right? But the fact that he's married this concept with the Garden of Eden and devils and devil worship, and this stuff's going to be seen by kids, then there's a problem here. It's, this is not a good thing. This is something that's going to have a negative effect on kids. And all the people that are involved on this in terms of making the video, promoting the video, and all the rest of it, that's also on them, right? They're not doing a good job of protecting young people from something they're inevitably going to see, because that's how the internet works. You shouldn't be exposing kids to what you have in this video. They're not ready to handle it, and it's simply not appropriate for them. And kids need to be protected more than anything else. And so this is, a bad thing, a horrible thing. But on a different level, I know what's happening here. There was a person who does the heartfulness meditation. He sells dehydrated foods, and he's, an American person, someone who I've known for a number of years, and he has a different sort of ideology than a lot of people who do heartfulness. In America, there are a lot of people who are, Americans who do the heartfulness system. There are a lot of people from India, and they have more conservative beliefs. People that have gone from India who are living in America, or they're American citizens now. Daji Kamlesh Patel is one of these people. A lot of Indians in America, people who are, originally from India, do the heartfulness meditation. But then there's a lot of Americans, and many of them are sort of, liberal New Age people. And so this guy had seen my videos. We hadn't talked in a while, and he knew I was in India for a while, and he tried to reach out to me, and he emailed me, and then we connected and talked on the phone, and he said he talked to Master Charji, and they had a very, intense conversation. And Master Charji said that all the things you're seeing now, so this is probably back in 2012 or 13 or something like this, and he was already talking about this. In 2011, there is a meeting every year for the American part of heartfulness, right? It's, I think globally, each country has their different rules, but organizationally, there's supposed to be like a General Assembly meeting. And in 2011, he gave this speech, and he said this: what is God? Which God? Where is God? Things which we have heard, questions which we have heard asked by the great Asuric demonic emperors of the past in India, like Ravana and Kumbhakarna and like Kamsa. Where is God? Ask him to show himself before me. Questions asked thousands of years ago, centuries ago in India, are now being asked in modern times in the West, which is so highly educated, so highly affected by science and technological development that they think there is no need for God. Now, I was sort of surprised by him saying this, and there was more in these talks. Towards the end, he passed away in 2014, and so he was just letting it fly, like he was just saying things that they normally wouldn't say. And this is 10 years ago, and he was talking about what we see really falling apart now in terms of our culture, where devil worship seems to be something on so many levels that is being promoted, whether you're a Christian or not. There is this attitude that all these things to do with God are evil, right? That people who believe in God are evil. People who think there is a God are preventing progress, are preventing things from going in the right direction. And so there's no reverence, or there's a total lack of respect for God and people who believe in God. That you are somehow regressive and holding everybody else back through your belief in your worship. And so this practitioner of the heartfulness system talked to Master Charji, and he said that all of these things were going to get really bad. Like you're not going to even believe what you're going to see as this thing opens up, which is, in part what we see in this video and with Cardi B, but just on a daily basis, the level of depravity and moral degradation. And I had just moved to the area in which he used to live, and he talked about how he had a, falling out with a trainer who, confronted him and was completely hostile. This woman that I've had like negative interactions with, who was mad at him for having that conversation with Master Charji because of her, liberal connections and her beliefs. And so you see this, even people who are pursuing God. I know she's been doing this heartfulness meditation now for a number of years, devoted person who's into it. And she was resisting these ideas, like so many other people who are, liberal oriented and think all this kind of stuff is okay. And so it's going to get worse. Like, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of the degradation. And it's part of a sort of a rock bottom plan. Humanity's going to literally hit the bottom. It's going to go as low as it can go in terms of its morality, in terms of all of these things. And there's really nothing to do about it because, there was this movie that I saw years and years ago. Shouldn't have watched it. Like, I think I was maybe 9 or 10. It was one of those things where I watched it and I, really wasn't conceptually able to handle it. It was a horror movie called The Sentinel. And, it left an impression on me, and I think it's good that I watched it. I don't know how good it is, but it starred this guy, Burgess Meredith, who played Rocky's trainer, right? Rock, the guy, the little guy that trained Rocky in those, initial movies. And so he was the devil. He played the devil. And there was a young woman who moved into this building, and she moved into this apartment that was previously occupied by a nun who just sat by the window and stared out the window sort of vacantly. And then she died, and this woman moved into the apartment. And she had recently tried to kill herself. She had been someone who had made an attempt at suicide. And Burgess Meredith and the inhabitants of the building were, he was the devil and they were demons, and they were all trying to get her to kill herself because the woman who sat there, the nun, was watching over the gate of hell. And if she didn't watch, she was the sentinel, and if somebody didn't fill that role, the gates of hell would open up and they would just be flooded with demons and all these things, right? And, that's kind of what's happened now. Like, there's been this Hollywood morality that's been, existing, but it's been in the shadows. It's something that really wealthy people, the so-called elite in Hollywood and, these various people have believed in and have exhibited and indulged in, but they never felt safe to put it out to the masses. And one thing that the internet has done is opened up everything. And so now there's the truth movement, there's information out there that comes out through, the internet and the free access to information, the ability for people to share information, but also the degradation, the Hollywood morality. And there's lots of people that don't fit in. I'm a person that didn't fit in, right? I've always been an outsider. I'm always an outsider no matter what group I'm in. I'm an outsider in the truth community because of my, differing views and my orientation. Like, my videos are different than other truthers. I'm certainly an outsider in the heartfulness meditation. And on a whole, I'm an outsider. Like, I'm always on the fringe. It's just, what I've experienced my whole life, being dyslexic and introverted and just being somebody who's, loner and very, standoffish in different ways. And I just don't like the group mentality and don't really want to fit in. It sort of drains me. And so I've always been an outsider, and I can certainly sympathize with outsiders and people who don't fit in. And I think everybody feels that to some extent. But in terms of the internet, what you've had is, like, let's say you have rural communities that are very Christian oriented and they have a very sort of rigid belief system. Now the internet allows young people to connect to a different set of beliefs and dogma and this Hollywood morality. And they've really worked the youth. The people that control social media, the Hollywood culture, has really worked the youth to rebel against their parents' beliefs, especially religious beliefs. So you see a lot of conservative people, and I'm not a Republican or a conservative or a Christian. I see all points of view here. But I see that you have these, conservative parents, and now their kids are ratting them out, are exposing them on the internet, and they are completely against their parents' belief system. Now, that wouldn't have happened if there was no internet, because they never would have got exposed to the Hollywood dogma. One of the things about people in the West, specifically in America, but Europe as well, and now this is happening globally, but it's been one of the predominant factors in America, and that is that the young rebel against their parents. The young almost always go against their parents' beliefs in America. There's some good families there, here and there, but for the most part, kids in America do the opposite of what their parents do. And so there is this need, and again, I've talked about the cleaning aspect, that everything that was hidden, the stuff that was suppressed, all the stuff that, went down in darkness, all these things that people have been ashamed of, things that people have repressed, or things people have indulged in secret, but they don't want everyone else to know, is coming out. It's all going to be brought up to the surface. It just has to be that way. There has to be a cleansing and sort of a truthful, where the stuff that was hidden is now out in the open. And Master Babaji, the second master of the system, used to talk about how, you can clean things. He was talking about the heartfulness meditation and cleaning. And it's easy to clean stuff that's on the surface in terms of when people go and get their hearts cleaned in the heartfulness system. But the deeper impressions, the deeper samskaras, the deeper grossness is very, solid, it's harder, it's heavier, and it sinks to the bottom. So like in a pool, you can skim the surface of a pool and get all the things floating on the top. But the stuff that becomes waterlogged and starts to rot and then, starts to get moldy and, starts to get all these various growths on it and things like this, incubating, cancerous, it's going to sink to the bottom. And that stuff's much harder to clean. And so pulling things off the surface, sure, but things that are, at the bottom that have to come out, the real sordid stuff, it takes more effort and more time for it to sort of come out, right? And, I've experienced this myself in terms of the depths of the cleaning process in the heartfulness system. And there has to be catalysts, there has to be material catalysts to, sort of activate these samskaras, activate these programs, these, impressions, this grossness that is inside of you. The things that people are most ashamed of, and this is from previous existences or whatever it is, things that people don't even want to, acknowledge that they have ever thought about or whatever it might be, some really bad stuff. We bury that in a very deep place in terms of our grossness and our samskaras and our spiritual impressions, right? It's like when an oyster has a irritant in its system and it covers it in what becomes a pearl, right? And in terms of, people's most repressed thoughts, things that, their worst stuff, that's what they do on a spiritual level. And so it takes something, a catalyst, to pull that stuff to the surface so it can be cleaned out. Stuff that people bury there. There's some scaras, there are these deep impressions, there's these like hidden programs that people have inside of them, and they're looking for the right situation to flower, right? There's these seeds out in nature that they'll only, sprout, they'll only germinate under the right circumstances. And you have a lot of people who gain power because power is something that might pull these things out. Wealth and fame and power, politicians, and even you have like these evangelical leaders who become very charismatic figures that have a lot of wealth and support, and all of a sudden they're doing all these deviant things, and they have to come on their TV show and weep and beg for forgiveness and talk about what a sinner they are, right? All these things. It's because, when they were just normal, average people, a lot of these deviant tendencies wouldn't come out. They wouldn't be pulled to the surface. They wouldn't be expressed. But once they had power, once they had following and things like this, these samskaras were able to germinate and proliferate, and the next thing you know, the person's a complete degenerate. And this happens to a lot of higher developed souls, saints that rise up to high levels of spirituality, and they're good people, devoted people to God. And then they have this power, they have all this support, they have all this love and adoration from their followers. And deep inside their hearts, where you record all your doings and thoughts and impressions, these samskaras, deep inside themselves, they had these hidden programs, these hidden addictions and tendencies that come out, right, once they have all this power and they have all this, this energy surrounding them, because they weren't cleansed properly. There's lots of people that this happens to. And so that's why in the heartfulness system, there's cleaning. There's all these levels of cleaning, and you can be doing the system for 20 years. Like I had something cleaned out. I was practicing this system for 22 years, and this, resistance, this resentment I had towards God came out, and it was, transformational. But it took so many years to pull it to the surface. And this is what's being collectively done to humanity. All the things that have been repressed, all the evils, all the darkness, things that have been done in secret, or thoughts that people have that they don't want to share to the world, are now coming out in so many different ways. And there's no stopping it. And you're going to see this youthful generation indulging in so many of these types of behaviors. They're going to be, that's already been happening because of the internet. You see this with millennials and their addiction to porn and things that they see on the internet, all these things, and they become very degraded. But eventually, this degradation will lead them to crave something real. They're going to want real love and real relationships, and they're going to want to have an internalized relationship with God. I don't know how long that's going to take, but there's going to be this degradation, all this stuff being brought out to the surface in this apocalyptic way, and then young people embracing some of these things, which they already are, going against tradition, going against the, there's always been these constructs, these religious constructs that have repressed all these things and kept them from proliferating throughout society. And those things have been removed, and now you see that all this Hollywood morality that they've believed in for so many years, things that they've indulged in the Hollywood and the so-called elite people have indulged in now, is being rolled out across the masses, is being introduced to the masses, and especially the youth who are going to indulge in this. And after they go through this, it's like, the hangover that they're going to get when they're disconnected from God and their families, and they're lonely and suicidal and depressed, and they just feel miserable from indulging, which is, what comes of such things. They're going to crave something better. First and foremost, an internalized relationship with God. And then love and, loving relationships with family members and nature and living more natural lives. All these things. They're going to want to throw off technology and the indulgences of our modern day materialistic system. They're going to throw those things off. And that's when the great redemptive movement of humanity will begin, in building better systems and realizing what this type of lifestyle does to you. And so things have got to get worse. We have to hit rock bottom before that happens. And this is just the beginning. This is freaking people out. Like I said, I must have got 10 messages, and I didn't even read the comments. I'm sure people are saying this in comments as well to this video by Little Nas X, but this is just the beginning. Things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. And that's why only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano. Definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.